So I'm curious for you all because we talked a little bit about how sort of like your own racial awakening. You mentioned like starting to learn more about issues regarding race and racism in the States when you started at Quinnipiac and sort of like talking about where you are in terms of your own identity. And I'm wondering sort of like as you all are in these positions where students and faculty and staff even view you as like the students that are leading conversations around equity and inclusion, how do you also create space for your continued learning while you're navigating these spaces of, encouraging folks to, create new positions and have these conversations?
I think the same way we're required to take FYS coming in, there should be a course or something that students have to go through where they're allowed to have these questions and allowed to, I guess, be uncomfortable, because a lot of times, not for people of color, I think that we're all very comfortable talking about our experiences and the problems that we deal with, but I think that from the outside perspective, a white person sitting in who never has to experience these things might feel uncomfortable and sometimes even targeted in a way when we're like, oh yeah, this is what white people do to us and this is what we go through being a black person in this space. And so it's a lot, I think, for them to take on, especially if they have been isolated most of their lives, which is kind of the circumstance for most of the students who come to Quinnipiac. This is a very affluent school, so that's not something that is unexpected. But I think that the school kind of has this responsibility to garner these spaces for students, especially if you want to create more understanding leaders, you want to create more diverse organizations in the future, or even if you want to diversify the school in general.
I always face this level of like, man, like this is who I am, and I want to be, like I'm always trying to be my most 100% authentic, genuine self, but at the same time, I know like I can never fully be who I am.
So why not?
I just don't think it's fully accepted in those spaces. A lot of people who look like me are in those spaces where I would even be able to do that. I wouldn't be having dialogue or some level of camaraderie with somebody if they couldn't understand who I was or like why I was talking the way I talked or like how I was behaving.
Like I'm a vice president of equity and inclusion, and I'm a professor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't always dress suited and booted. Like this is how I am on most days, right? Getting into a space where we have a practice of being okay with who we are, and I think that changes over time. Mm-hmm. Because there were certain times where I felt that I couldn't be like who I was. As a matter of fact, like when it comes to like activism on campus, like, and so one of the things for me that's difficult is sometimes I think people see me in administration but erase my blackness, right? And so when something happens, sometimes I feel like people don't think that I feel it as well. And so then I have to navigate this space and like, how can I be supportive of students in this place and letting them know that I'm supportive of them?